Some people drown in water, others drown in their thoughts. But the scariest part is, no one around them even knows they're sinking. Imagine waking up one day and realizing you've spent more time thinking about life than actually living it. The morning sun filters through the blinds, coffee percolates in the kitchen, and the world outside is in motion, but inside your mind, it's a war zone. A quiet, tireless civil war where every memory is re-examined, every future path split into infinite branches of what if, and every present moment drowned in a sea of doubts. You get out of bed, but you're already exhausted. Not from what you did, but from what you thought about doing. You replay conversations that ended hours ago. You imagine catastrophes that haven't happened. You write entire novels in your mind about things you'll never say out loud. And beneath it all, is a voice whispering, if I think about it long enough, maybe I can control it. But here's the paradox. The more you think, the less control you have. The more you analyze, the more uncertain everything becomes. The more you try to solve the future in your head, the more paralyzed you feel in the present. So you spiral. Again. You convince yourself this mental maze is intelligence. That it's necessary. That overthinking is just being prepared. But is it? What if overthinking isn't a strength, but a symptom? What if this endless inner dialogue isn't you being thoughtful, but you being afraid? Afraid of loss. Afraid of rejection. Afraid of making the wrong move. Afraid of silence, of stillness, of the uncontrollable nature of being alive. And so, you fill the silence with noise. You attempt to outthink pain. You try to logic your way out of emotions. You build mental castles, hoping they'll protect you. But all you've really built is a prison. So here's the real question. If overthinking gives us no answers, why do we keep doing it? What hidden force drives this addiction to mental noise? Who benefits from your endless internal debate? And most of all, what would your life look like if your mind finally went quiet, and you were no longer afraid of the silence? This is not just a story of overthinking. It's a story of fear, illusion, and the secret war being waged inside your head. A war no one sees, but one you fight every single day. And the most terrifying part? You've convinced yourself that thinking more will help you feel less. Let's peel back the layers of that illusion. Let's expose the roots buried deep in your psyche. Because until you understand what you're really running from, you'll keep calling it preparation, wisdom, or planning. But it's not. It's fear, disguised as thought. And it's time to meet it face to face. Overthinking feels like you're doing something. You're calculating, preparing, protecting. But underneath that illusion lies something far more ancient, far more primitive, a fear of chaos. We are, at our core, creatures terrified of the unknown. The future is an abyss, and the mind, desperate to protect you, starts building bridges made of thought. But these aren't real bridges. They're made of assumptions, imagined outcomes, and rehearsed regrets. You walk them again and again, but they never get you anywhere. Why? Because you're not thinking to understand. You're thinking to avoid. Carl Jung called this the escape into the intellect. A psychological mechanism where the mind retreats into analysis to avoid feeling. When emotions are too overwhelming, guilt, shame, grief, fear, the mind dissects them instead of experiencing them. It transforms life into a problem to be solved rather than a mystery to be lived. Overthinking, then, becomes a strategy of avoidance. But the irony? The very emotions you're trying to avoid, they wait at the end of every thought loop. Think of a person sitting in a room filling pages with notes, theories, and possibilities. Now imagine that beneath their chair, there's a locked trapdoor. What they don't realize is that the act of writing is just a way to avoid opening that door. Because they suspect, maybe even know, what's down there. A deep well of unresolved emotion. And so, thought becomes a defense mechanism. But it's a fragile defense. And one that often backfires. As Nietzsche warned, when you stare long into the abyss stares back into you. The more you analyze your fears, the more you give them shape. The more you inspect your pain, the more it becomes who you are. Thinking turns into identification. I think, therefore I am, becomes. I overthink, therefore I suffer. But where does this pattern begin? Often, it starts in childhood. A parent yells, a promise is broken, a need is ignored. And suddenly, the world becomes unpredictable. The child learns, if I can just figure out what I did wrong, maybe I can prevent it next time. That survival instinct, trying to think your way to safety, becomes a habit. And as you grow older, it doesn't go away. It evolves. It wears new clothes. It becomes productivity, problem solving, even perfectionism. But the truth is, you're still that child. Still scanning the world for signs of danger. Still trying to think your way out of pain. This is why overthinking feels like control, because it used to be. It used to be the only power you had. But now? It's no longer a tool. It's a leash. You don't notice it at first, how overthinking begins to alter your world, not just your mind, but your relationships, your habits, your body. Like an invisible fog, it seeps into every corner of your life, dulling the color from moments that were once vibrant. You pause before speaking. Not because you're thoughtful, but because your brain is calculating 1,000 possible reactions to every word you might say. You delay decisions, not because you're being careful, but because you're terrified of regret. You replay the past, not to learn from it, but to punish yourself for not having known then what you know now. The illusion? You believe you're being responsible. The reality? You're stuck in a loop of hesitation and self-doubt. Your brain becomes addicted to the illusion of figuring it out. You wake up at 3 a.m. not because your life is on fire, but because your mind insists it might be. This isn't just a bad habit. It's a full-body experience. Chronic overthinking changes your brain chemistry. Neuroscience shows that repetitive negative thinking increases activity in the default mode network, the part of your brain associated with self-referential thought. The more you engage it, the more dominant it becomes. Like carving grooves into a record, your thoughts loop into patterns, deepening the ruts with every replay. Over time, your nervous system learns that safety lies in paralysis. Not movement. Not risk. So you become a spectator of your own life. And this has consequences far beyond anxiety. You avoid intimacy, because you overanalyze every interaction. You miss opportunities, because you think them to death. You numb yourself with distractions, scrolling, snacking, sleeping, because silence becomes unbearable. You create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Overthinkers tend to make worse decisions, because they delay action until the situation deteriorates. And here's the quiet tragedy: overthinking makes you less alive. You stop trusting yourself. You stop trusting the world. And eventually, you stop moving forward. Culture doesn't help. It rewards mental busyness. It praises the anxious overachiever, the perfectionist, the deep thinker. But what it's really rewarding is the person who can no longer rest, who cannot stop trying to control outcomes, who cannot simply be. This isn't awareness. This is imprisonment. Overthinking doesn't just steal your time. It steals your presence. It replaces wonder with calculation, joy with analysis, intuition with self-doubt. And the most haunting part? You may not even realize it's happening. Like a parasite that mimics your voice, overthinking sounds like you. But it isn't. It's the echo of fear whispering in 1,000 disguises. You think it's insight. You think it's intelligence. But it's not. It's hesitation in a lab coat. It's fear wearing a suit. It's control dressed up as consciousness. And until you see it for what it is, you'll keep mistaking the prison for a palace. This is where the rebellion begins. Not with a grand awakening. Not with fireworks. But with something deceptively simple. Something your brain, conditioned by years of mental noise, will try to resist. Stillness. 5 minutes. That's all it takes. But not just any 5 minutes. These must be the most honest 5 minutes of your day. And honesty, when you've built a life around overthinking, can feel like walking naked into a storm. Let me explain. The neuroplastic lie you've been sold. You've been told your brain is the way it is. An anxious brain. But neuroscience paints a different picture. Your brain isn't a fixed machine, it's clay. Soft, shapeable, and constantly rewiring itself based on what you do repeatedly. That's called neuroplasticity. Every time you spiral in anxious thought, you reinforce that neural loop. Like pressing your finger into wet sand again and again until it becomes a hole you can't climb out of. But that also means you can press somewhere new. And here's the rebellion. You don't fight the anxiety by thinking less. You break it by feeling more. The 5-minute rewiring ritual. No productivity hacks. No meditative perfection. Just 5 sacred minutes, every single day. Here's exactly what you do. 1. Find a safe, silent space, 1 minute. You don't need candles or chanting. Just a room where your phone isn't vibrating and your mind isn't pulled outward. Sit. Ground your feet. Keep your spine tall. Close your eyes. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now, beneath the thoughts? Don't answer with words. Feel it. Is there tightness in your chest? A hollowness in your gut? A racing heartbeat? That's not a distraction. That's the message. 2. Breathe with intention, 1 minute. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Why this pattern? Because your exhale controls your parasympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for calming the body. You're not just relaxing. You're training your brain to feel safe in stillness. 3. Identify the dominant fear, 1 minute. Ask yourself, what am I trying to control right now through thought? Is it someone's opinion? A future outcome? An unresolved past event? Now imagine yourself releasing it. Not solving. Not conquering. Just letting it float. Visualize placing it in a balloon and letting it drift upward, away from your body. This visualization rewires your amygdala, the fear center, to disconnect thought from threat. 4. Whisper the reversal, 1 minute. This is critical. Speak, aloud or in your mind, a sentence that interrupts the overthinking pattern. Try. I can live without knowing. I am not my thoughts. Safety is not found in control. I can feel this, and still be okay. This is how you lay new neural tracks. You're reconditioning your brain to see stillness as safe, not dangerous. 5. Open your eyes with intention, 1 minute. Don't rush back into the noise. Open slowly. Look around. Name one thing you see that you've never noticed before. This final minute anchors your attention in the now. It shifts your default mode network into what neuroscientists call the task-positive network, responsible for presence, flow, and embodied action. Do this every day for 21 days. That's it. No guru. No apps. Just 5 minutes of radical presence. And here's what starts to happen. Your cortisol levels drop. Your default mode network quiets. Your tolerance for uncertainty increases. And most importantly, your identity shifts. You no longer are the anxious brain. You are the observer of the anxious brain. And that, psychologically, is liberation. The ultimate truth, your mind was never the enemy. The thoughts, the spirals, the restlessness. They weren't there to destroy you. They were protective mechanisms, built when you didn't feel safe. They were your mind's way of saying, I don't know how to hold all this, so I'll keep spinning until it stops hurting. But now you know better. You don't need to outthink the pain. You don't need to plan your way into worthiness. You don't need to control everything to be okay. Because the most powerful moment in your life is the moment you stop trying to escape it. You rewire your brain by showing it that silence is not a threat. That stillness is not the enemy. That not knowing can be a friend. That your feelings don't need to be solved, they need to be heard. And once you begin, you'll notice something strange. You'll think less, but understand more. You'll feel more, but suffer less. You'll do less, but live more. So the next time your mind begins to spin, don't try to overpower it. Sit down, close your eyes, and give it 5 minutes. Not to fix it, but to free it. Because the cure for overthinking was never more thinking. It was always more feeling, more surrender, more trust. And it only takes 5 minutes a day.